can assume, and from the set of facts available to the public, the ground is facts. So in this instance, which particular law enforcement agents has arrested him? When was this arrested? Where was he arrested? Where is he present? Which offense are they confirming that he has committed? And all this would feed into whatever legal action we may want to take. But in this instance, from the facts available, if what he has alleged or put on social media is the basis of his arrest, it is clearly unlawful, and it's a breach of his fundamental human right. Yes, we can assume that as Nigerians, because we have the right to hold opinions, but that unfortunately may not be enough for any kind of legal intervention.
Now, assuming the information in which we're all relying on at the moment turns out to be fact, and that's actually what's transpired, that based on some tweet or because of some tweet he put up some months ago, referring to the First Lady as being fat and having fed on the resources of the poor in the country, assuming that's the basis for this arrest, and some of the other information we're getting, assuming that's also true, that he was actually ferried to Abuja, to State House Abuja, where he was reportedly reprimanded, beaten up. Some reports even say in the presence of the First Lady. Some reports even go further to say that the First Lady attempted to kick him as well or join in the beating, and as she fractured a foot and had to be taken to a hospital. Assuming all of this is true, what does it tell us?
And that's the issue. We cannot assume these facts altogether until we're very sure. But if they are true, as they are true, and this is not entirely new, either in Nigeria or some of the so-called democratic countries that we've seen in Africa, where people have brought up offenses like insulting the president or some of such other laws. It shouldn't be. If individuals or public officers feel aggrieved by any statement made by fellow citizens, the court, people always have a cause to go to court, and it's a civil action. Yes, you can make a claim for defamation or libel, but in this instance, he has committed no crime for him to pick up, and the law is clear about the right of freedom, the right that Nigerians have to freedom of movement, the right to life, and other rights. And we're not even talking of freedom of expression in this regard. Even if he has committed a crime, law enforcement agencies have no right to hold him, detain him beyond the constitutional provision of 48 hours. And so, really, and that is why instances like these makes us understand the importance of democracy, not only by going to the polls every 4 years, but to understand the essence of a decent society where the rule of law prevails. When things like this happen, it reminds us of the purpose of why organizations like SERAP has been clamoring for the rule of law, where the law is above everyone else. And so in this instance, and how do we ensure that this doesn't happen again? And those are the important conversations we should be having from this, that Nigerians need to understand why it is very important that we obey laws, not because we have access to power or any kind of privilege over other places.
Now, once again, caller, assuming that what's the information that's pervading the media space, new media space, Twitter sphere at the moment, assuming all of that is true, and putting it side by side, the rule of law and democracy, does democracy not guarantee or not give effect to the rule of law? Because we do have democracy in Nigeria. We do hold elections every 4 years. We go to the polls, we elect people, government or the people, for the people, by the people, supposedly. Why is our democracy not giving effect to the rule of law?
Tayo, your guess is as good as mine. These are the issues we talk about every time on and off there. It is just the lack of political will on the highest level, down to the lowest levels of governance, that has led us to these very, call it sad moments. Because this is just one case out of many. That sometimes you read them on the pages of newspaper, we hear them on TV and radio, and a lot more goes on that we do not even get to hear about. This impunity cannot be allowed. We cannot just allow this to go on. We do have a democracy, and like I said earlier, it doesn't start and end with electing people into offices. Democracy speaks about it is an art of governance. It talks about our processes, our laws, how we make those laws, how we enforce those laws, the justice, the fairness, the equity in the system. Unfortunately, that is the challenge we have. It's not like we do not have laws. They are not perfect. But even laws as a means of social engineering are not meant to be perfect. They change from time to time and the society changes. The problem we have, guys, is the lack of political will to enforce those laws. However imperfect they are, laws are not obeyed. How do you speak to a government that do not obey judgments? SERAP has more than 11 judgments against the federal government that is yet to be enforced. And that is just that. We're not talking of several individuals and agents of government who have made claims against the government in court, and the government is just not obeying laws. If the government at the highest level, the federal government, can disobey the rule, the orders of court with impunity, what do you say? What can you talk about law enforcement agencies who are even under the federal government as it were? And that is why we must understand, as we talk about this aspect of democratic practice where we want to elect individuals, we must understand the importance that after the 2023 elections, governance will continue. And we must put these things as part of the context to these elections. The rule of law must prevail. Among other things, we must have an independent judiciary. We must have the principle of separation of powers. Agencies of government must be independent and they must work. Agencies of government must understand that they serve the people, they obey the people, and they are ultimately responsible to the people. And they must understand that they must be accountable for the use of these powers. So whichever law enforcement agencies that made this arrest, for instance,
democracy,
the acts that set them up might have given them powers to make arrests, and that is not in doubt. But that act itself is subject to the Constitution, and the Constitution itself has guaranteed individual Nigerians certain rights, including officers of those institutions. So just because they wear uniform and they carry arms doesn't mean they are also immune to either have those rights or to claim them. They are Nigerians first and foremost. And after they put off those uniforms and they drop the guns, they will still be Nigerians. So the Constitution has provided rights for every Nigerian, among which is the freedom of expression, among which is the right to fair, among which is the right to freedom of movement, and so on. And so in carrying out their task, they must understand why these laws are made. That even the same laws protect them. And that's why we've seen instances where people are in power and they get away with some things. And when they drop that power, the same law they've abused now comes to harm them. And then they remember all of a sudden that they're entitled to this to the provisions conversations we should have.
Then they will call on the people to rise up to defend the law.
Unfortunately, it is not the people that rise up to enforce the law. The people enforce the law through the ballot, and they enforce the law through conversations just like this, advocacy, like we're doing presently. But the people they have people in positions who are either elected or appointed to enforce the laws. And that is why the people must continue, like we're doing presently, to hold those individuals accountable, that you are elected to do this. You are appointed to do this, and this is what the law says you must do. This is what the law says you must not do. You must do it.
We do have to go for a commercial break right now, Kola. We'll return afterwards. Conversation will continue, by the way. Join us well via Facebook and Twitter at Nigeria Info PH. That's at Nigeria Info PH, Facebook and Twitter. Don't forget YouTube as well. Let's get your take on this. We'll return shortly. Do please stay with us.
And now, hard facts.
Hello and welcome back. Still Hard Facts to Nigeria in for your number one talk station. I'm Dial. We've got about 23 to go before 6. The major news comes about 6 p.m. For the moment, discussions continue. And once again, referencing SERAP's tweet about 2 days ago, courtesy SERAP's official Twitter handle, breaking, the Buhari administration must immediately and unconditionally release Aminu Muhammad, student of the Federal University Dutse, who was reportedly arrested over a post on Twitter allegedly criticizing the First Lady, will see in court if he's not immediately released. Joining me via phone for this once again is SERAP's Deputy Director, Kola Oli Oluwadare. Kola, you're welcome back. Hello, Kola, you're welcome back.
Hello, Barry. Hello.
Yes, Kola, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Barry.
All right, great. So earlier we were welcome back. We're talking about the inadequacies with our democracy earlier on, and if the information that's circulated online is anything to go by, and that's if it's true that he was arrested for a tweet put up some months ago criticizing the First Lady for having gained weight, according to him, for feeding on the resources belonging to the poor masses of the country. And if the reports are true that he was taken to State House Abuja where he was beaten, some reports say even beaten by the First Lady as well, where she reportedly fractured a foot. And if all this is true, it's wrong to borrow your word a while ago. It's illegal, and also, it smacks of many things wrong. And like you also said, it would just be one of the very other many that happen quite regularly, most of which you probably never even hear about. And I was asking about democracy, that democracies are supposed to give effect to the rule of law, and why ours is not doing that. You explained in some detail a while ago as to the political will to do that. We have governments in Nigeria that don't obey court judgments. I think I saw, after I resumed on the show today, I saw a story, something about the IG of police having been sentenced to 3 months by a court for contempt. I need to look into that in some detail later on. So if that's our situation, what then do we need to do, like you said, beyond going to the polls every 4 years? I mean, early next year, Nigerians will go to vote again. If a democratic system does not give effect to the rule of law, what else then do we need to do besides going to the polls every 4 years?
Thank you very much. Tayo, before we go into that, I think I need to mention the facets of wrong in this particular instance. If indeed the facts that are available now, they are true. I've said it in the first time that act of putting out a tweet does not constitute a criminal offense. And let us even assume it was. The fact that it has been kept in detention by any law enforcement agency beyond the statutory time, again, is wrong. And so if the law enforcement agencies that have arrested him claims that he has committed a crime, he has been arrested. He should have been brought before a court for them to establish his culpability or otherwise. Now, I think from the reports we have, it's more than 5 days. That is clearly wrong. And that is besides the fact that what is allegedly been said from the facts available now is not a crime. So I've said that. I think one of the most important things we can do, among other things, is for Nigerians as rights holders to even understand what the rule of law is, what the standard set by democracy is. That way we can hold the duty bearers, those in the public service, to account. But even if we, the right holders, that is the people who elected and appointed these people, by the way, do not understand what the rule of law is and the concept of democracy, how do you think we can effectively engage beyond electing people or appointing people to be in office? Because really, when I say Nigerians appoint, when you elect people, when the people that you elect appoint people, indirectly you are the one appointing those persons, which is why everybody that holds public office in Nigeria is ultimately answerable to the people, whether they are elected or appointed. And so people need to understand this critical conversation, that this kind of thing that happened is just one out of many. We should use this to engage and to understand what is right and what is wrong within the context of the laws that we have, within the context of the rule of law. Not just because this happened to one guy that you like, What if it had happened to someone you don't like? What if it had happened to someone of another tribe, another political affiliation, another religion? It does not matter. And until we get beyond that threshold, really, we can't shout and scream about this particular instance. In another instance, if it happens to someone else that you really do not care about, then you will not care. That is why we need to understand. It even shows that in the way we are engaging politically, in the way we are going about the politics in 2023, we should use issues like this to drive home the point why we must obey the rule of law. Not only because this individual, Aminu, is a Nigerian, he is a young man, but because most importantly, he is an human being, and he has been granted rights by the Constitution. The same rights that have been granted to those who hold power over him presently. These conversations are very important. They are a means to an end so that we can all understand, so that we can drive this point to those who hold power.
Kola, very quickly, for in about a minute, please. What is SERAP planning to do about this in about a minute?
We are considering our legal options. Our lawyers are studying the facts, and they are trying to get more facts, more clarity on the facts. The law is very clear, really. So once we have the necessary facts, we're exploring our legal options. I'm going to court is not ruled out in this instance. And I like you said, we cannot afford to give up. So we just have to keep considering.
We have to wrap it up on that note. Many thanks for joining. And by the way, keep the conversation going on our social media pages, Facebook and Twitter at Nigeria Info page. And after the major news at 6 p.m., I'll take your responses to this conversation as well. But thanks to my guest also who joined me via phone, Olanlekunlua Dare is Deputy Director with SERAP. Pardon me, Kola Wolelua Dare, I meant to say. Kola, many thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Dare.
And that's it for the conversation for now. Commercial break comes up shortly, and we've got the major news top of the hour at 6 p.m. Afterwards, open season.